My stepfather tried to take my inheritance, claiming it was for the family, but I wasn't going to let that happen. Stay with me as I share how I stood up and showed him what family really means. And if this story moves you, don't forget to support our channel. Hit subscribe, drop a like, and share it with your loved one. Ama Owusu sat on the balcony of her small apartment in Accra, staring at the golden sunset over the city, and she could still hear her father's voice in her mind. "I built this home so you'd never be without one," he had told her on his deathbed, his hand gripping hers tightly. He had been a kind, hard-working man, the kind of father who believed that family was everything. And he had left her more than words. He had left her a legacy, a sprawling cocoa estate outside Kumasi, and a beautiful family house, all legally willed to her. When her father passed away, Ama's life changed in ways she hadn't imagined. Her mother, Efua, remarried a man named Kojo Mensah. On the surface, he was charming, polite, and caring, the kind of stepfather anyone might feel lucky to have. Ama tried her best to respect him for her mother's sake, even when something about him didn't sit right. At first, it was small things, subtle comments about how he managed the estate better, or how things needed a new perspective. But soon, Kojo's words started to sting. He began referring to Ama's inheritance, the home her father had built, the land he had worked tirelessly on, as family property. It wasn't a casual remark. It was a warning, a subtle claim, a first step toward taking what wasn't his. Ama felt a knot in her stomach. Her father had trusted her with this legacy, and already, someone she had tried to trust was questioning her right to it. At first, Kojo's involvement in the family estate seemed harmless. He told Ama he just wanted to help manage things, and at first she tried to believe him. But soon, it became clear that his help came with strings attached. He started moving money from the cocoa estate into a new company, one that he claimed was set up to streamline operations. The problem was the company was in his name, not Ama's. Every time she asked about it, he would flash that easy smile and say, "Don't worry, it's just temporary. Everything will be easier once you sign a few papers." Those words made Ama's heart race. Something about them didn't feel right. She remembered her father's lawyer, Mr. Asare, who had warned her repeatedly, "Never sign anything without reviewing it first, no matter who asked. Trust your instincts, Ama," he had said. "Family or not, your signature is your power." But confronting Kojo was complicated. Her mother, Efua, seemed genuinely caught in the middle. "He's only trying to help," Efua would say gently, brushing aside Ama's question. "You have to understand, he wants what's best for the family." Ama could see the struggle in her mother's eyes, the tug-of-war between love and loyalty, but every word Kojo spoke felt like a small betrayal. Ama tried to stay calm, trying to explain herself to her mother, but inside, a storm was brewing. She watched as Kojo smiled and charmed everyone around him, pretending to be the family's protector, while quietly shifting control of everything her father had built. The more she saw, the more she realized that this wasn't just about money. It was about power, about control, about rewriting the story her father had left for her. Every time Kojo handed her another formal paper to sign, Ama's intuition screamed at her. She began keeping copies of bank statements, memos, and emails, piecing together a pattern she didn't want to see, but couldn't ignore. It was subtle at first, almost invisible, like a shadow creeping across the estate. But Ama knew shadows always grow, and if she didn't act soon, her father's legacy could disappear under Kojo's polished smile. For the first time since her father passed, Ama felt real fear, not of losing money, but of losing her family's history, her father's dream, and the trust she had once placed in the people she loved most. And deep down, she knew this was only the beginning. Ama drove down the dusty path leading to the cocoa estate that afternoon, the sun beating gently on the green leaves of the sprawling field. She had always loved this place, the smell of the rich earth, the way the wind whispered through the trees, the quiet strength it seemed to hold. But today something felt different. Something in the air made her stomach twist as she approached the main house. As she got closer, she heard voices. At first, she thought it was the workers talking about the day's tasks, but then she caught Kojo's voice, confident, smooth, almost boastful. "Soon, everything will be under my control," he said, laughing. Ama froze, her heart hammering. Those weren't just words. They were a warning, a declaration. Her blood ran cold. She stepped closer, pretending to check the garden, until finally she couldn't stay silent. "What do you mean by that?" she demanded, her voice shaking with anger and disbelief. Kojo turned, his smile vanishing, replaced with a look Ama had never seen before, cold and sharp. "You think a child like you can handle business?" he snapped. "This land feeds the family, not your ego." Ama felt her stomach churn. She had always respected him for her mother's sake, had tried to give him the benefit of the doubt. But now the truth was undeniable. Kojo wasn't protecting her father's legacy, he was hijacking it. The estate, the home, The dreams her father had poured his life into were being claimed by someone who didn't care about them, only about himself. For the first time, Alma saw him for who he really was. Not the charming stepfather, not the helper her mother believed him to be, but a man willing to erase her father's work for his own gain. She looked around at the workers, who were avoiding her eyes, clearly uncomfortable. The sense of betrayal hit her harder than anything she had felt before. Her mind raced. She thought of her father's last words, the warnings from Mr. Asare, and the subtle signs she had been seeing for months. Everything was adding up. Kojo's control wasn't just financial, it was personal. He wanted to rewrite her family's story. And Alma knew deep down that if she didn't act, the story her father had left would be lost forever. That day, Alma left the estate with a heavy heart but a burning determination. She had been betrayed, yes, but she wasn't powerless. Her father's vision, his hard work, and her rightful inheritance were worth fighting for. And fight she would. Alma had learned to trust her instincts, but nothing could have prepared her for the shock that hit her one humid afternoon. She had gone to the land registry office to check on the paperwork for her father's cocoa estate and family house, expecting the usual routine. But as the clerk handed her the official title documents, her hands went cold. Her name wasn't on the papers anymore. Instead, the title bore the name of Kojo's company. Her stomach sank. Kojo had done it. He had forged her signature, filed the transfer secretly, and stolen what was rightfully hers. The weight of betrayal pressed down on her, heavier than she could ever remember feeling. When she called her mother into the office, Efua's face crumpled into disbelief and horror. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she whispered, "How could he? I trusted him." Before Alma could respond, Kojo appeared, calm and collected, a smirk playing at the corner of his mouth. "If you take this to court," he said slowly, almost tauntingly, "I'll make sure everyone knows your mother was part of it. Think carefully before you make a move." His words were meant to frighten her, to corner her into submission. For a moment, Alma felt trapped, like the walls of the office were closing in. But then she remembered her father, his wisdom, his foresight, the way he had always prepared for the unexpected. Somewhere in the old house, hidden among books and papers, he had left letters for her. Letters she hadn't opened yet. Alma's heart steadied. She realized Kojo's threats, his lies, and his intimidation meant nothing if she stayed calm and smart. Her father had always believed in her judgment, in her ability to protect what was rightfully hers. Instead of panicking, she took a deep breath, her mind racing through the next steps. She would need proof, evidence that Kojo had acted alone, and she would find it. She would dig through her father's letters, search for documents, and follow every legal path to reclaim her inheritance. Alma left the office with a renewed sense of purpose. Kojo might have played his hand early, but he had underestimated her, and he had underestimated the legacy her father had built for her. She was no longer just a young woman caught in a cruel twist of fate. She was the rightful owner, and she would not let anyone, not even her charming stepfather, take that away. Alma sat on the floor of her father's old study, the air heavy with the scent of polished wood and aged paper. Her hands trembled as she opened a drawer she had rarely touched, the one her father had always said held things for the right moment. There, tucked behind a row of books, she found a thick, sealed envelope with her name written on it in her father's familiar, elegant handwriting. Her heart raced. Inside the envelope were 2 keys, each gleaming under the soft light of the study. One was small and brass, labeled for a safe deposit box in the city. The other was larger, with a tag indicating it belonged to the land registry archives. Alma felt a mix of fear and hope swirl inside her. Her father had left her instructions, but what secrets had he hidden for this very moment? She went first to the safe deposit box, her hands shaking as she turned the key. Inside lay a thick packet of papers, neatly stacked and carefully notarized. As she flipped through the documents, her eyes widened. It was her father's real will, updated after her mother's remarriage, clearly stating that Alma was the sole owner of the cocoa estate, the family home, and every other asset he had built over a lifetime. Every corner, every clause, every legal detail had been prepared to protect her from exactly what was happening. Her stomach tightened as she realized just how far her father had planned ahead. He had foreseen betrayal, deceit, and manipulation. He had trusted her to act wisely, to honor the family legacy he had poured his heart into. Tears pricked her eyes, not of sadness, but of gratitude and determination. This was her inheritance, her birthright, and now she had the proof to reclaim it. Alma sat back for a moment, letting the weight of the moment sink in. She knew this wouldn't be easy. Kojo was cunning and manipulative, and confronting him without a solid plan would be dangerous. But now, armed with her father's foresight, she felt a spark of confidence. She wouldn't rush, she wouldn't panic. She would move carefully, strategically, making sure every step was deliberate and protected by the law. For the first time in weeks, Alma felt a sense of calm strength. Her father had left her more than property. He had left her a roadmap, a guide to protect what he had built, and she vowed silently but firmly that she would not fail him. Kojo might have tried to steal her inheritance, but he had underestimated her. The battle was just beginning, and Amma was ready. Amma knew she couldn't face Kojo alone. The betrayal had gone too far, and his threats were growing bolder by the day. So she reached out to Kwesi Boteng, a young attorney she had met through a friend. Sharp, focused, and unafraid of a challenge, Kwesi immediately understood the seriousness of the situation. Together, they started gathering everything that could prove Kojo's deceit: forged signatures, suspicious bank transfers, emails, and even witness statements from employees who had overheard his boastful remarks about taking control of the estate. Every piece of evidence was carefully documented, every loophole meticulously closed. They didn't stop there. Kwesi advised Amma to alert the Land Commission discreetly, ensuring that her father's assets would be protected while the investigation moved forward. It had to be quiet. Kojo mustn't suspect that Amma was already preparing her counterattack. Meanwhile, Kojo, confident as ever, called a family meeting at the estate. The workers were buzzing with curiosity as he announced his grand plan. He would sell part of the property to expand the family business and increase profits. The moment felt tense, but Amma kept her composure. She stepped forward, her voice calm but firm, and said, "You might want to hold off on that sale." Kojo laughed, a sharp, overconfident sound, thinking Amma was intimidated, thinking she was still powerless. He had no idea that while he was plotting, a storm had quietly been forming around him. Every forged document, every sneaky transaction, every boastful word he had uttered was now part of Amma's arsenal. He thought he was in control, but in reality, the net was closing in. Amma felt a strange mix of satisfaction and calm. She had been careful, patient, and strategic. She had listened to her father's wisdom, remembered his letters, and now, with Kwesi's help, she was ready to reclaim everything that belonged to her. Kojo's arrogance was his weakness. He underestimated her intelligence, and most of all, underestimated her determination. That evening, as Amma left the meeting, she felt a surge of quiet power. For the first time in weeks, she wasn't just reacting to Kojo's moves. She was controlling the pace, the plan, and the outcome. He might have thought he was winning, but Amma knew better. The estate, her father's legacy, and her future were safe, at least for now, and the battle she had been preparing for was about to reach its turning point. The day of the hearing at the Land Commission arrived, and Amma felt a mix of nerves and determination. She carried with her a thick folder stuffed with evidence: bank statements, emails, witness testimony, and the keys to the safe deposit box that held her father's original will. She knew this was the moment everything would change, one way or another. Kojo walked in with his usual smirk, exuding confidence as if the whole room belonged to him. He scanned the audience, the employees, and even Amma, as if daring anyone to challenge him. But the atmosphere shifted the moment the registrar cleared her throat. "We have a new development," she announced, her voice steady. "The original will of Mr. Owusu has been discovered." Amma felt her pulse quicken. She stepped forward and, with calm precision, unlocked the safe box right there in the hearing room. She pulled out the thick envelope containing her father's handwritten testament. The inked words were unmistakable, carefully notarized and fully updated after her mother's remarriage. Alongside it, she presented digital copies showing clear evidence of Kojo's forged signatures and illicit bank transfer. The room went silent. Every eye was on Kojo as he took in the documents. His confident smirk faltered. His face drained of color, his usual charm replaced by panic. For the first time, the man who had tried to take everything from her looked small, exposed, and Amma's voice was steady as she explained the situation to the registrar, detailing Kojo's manipulations, the forged documents, and the illegal transfers. She showed how he had tried to claim her father's estate as his own while threatening her mother into silence. Each piece of evidence fit together like puzzle pieces, leaving no room for doubt. After careful review, the registrar delivered the verdict. Amma's heart raced as the words finally came. All assets, including the Coco estate and the family home, were legally returned to her. Kojo's company accounts were frozen immediately, pending a full fraud investigation. Whispers rippled through the room as employees and onlookers processed what had just happened. Amma exhaled, a mix of relief, triumph, and justice washing over her. She had not only reclaimed her inheritance, but also restored her father's legacy and protected her mother's honor. Kojo's arrogance had been his undoing, and for the first time in months, Amma felt completely in control. She had played the long game, stayed calm, and relied on her father's foresight. As she left the hearing room, she glanced back at Kojo, now silent and defeated. A quiet smile crossed her face. The battle was over, and justice had prevailed, not just for her, but for the family her father had built and trusted her to protect. After the hearing, Kojo tried every trick he knew to regain control, or at least control the narrative. He pulled Amma's mother, Efua, aside, his voice trembling with fake emotion. "Look at what you've done, Efua," he pleaded, tears glistening in his eyes. "You've let her ruin the family. Everything we worked for, gone because of her stubbornness." For a moment, Efua seemed torn, glancing at her daughter with confusion and worry. Amma felt a pang in her chest, but she knew this was exactly the kind of manipulation Kojo thrived on. She stayed back, watching, her heart steady, ready to support her mother through the fog of deceit. Then something remarkable happened. Efua's expression changed. Her eyes hardened, and she looked Kojo directly in the face. "Family doesn't steal," she said firmly, her voice shaking only slightly. "Family protects. And what you did, you destroyed trust. You are not part of this family anymore." Amma felt a surge of relief and pride. Her mother had finally seen the truth, cutting through Kojo's charm and lies. Amma stepped forward and embraced her, whispering softly, "It's okay, Mom. We're okay now." Tears streamed down Efua's cheeks, but this time they were tears of clarity, of relief, of finally standing on the right side of justice. Kojo, on the other hand, had nowhere to hide. Word of the hearing and the verdict spread quickly through the community. Elders who had once respected him now whispered in hushed tones about his greed and betrayal. His smirk was gone, replaced with humiliation. Forced to leave the estate, he slunk away with nothing but his empty threats and shattered reputation. No friends, no influence, just the weight of his own deceit. Amma, watching him go, felt a sense of calm she hadn't known in months. She had defended her father's legacy, protected her family, and restored honor to the name he had built. She didn't feel anger toward Kojo anymore, just recognition that some people reveal themselves in time, and it's up to others to respond wisely. That evening, Amma and her mother walked together through the estate, the cocoa trees swaying gently in the wind. There was still work to do, still repairs to make, and still lives to rebuild. But for the first time, they felt safe. They were united, stronger, and free from deceit. Amma realized that standing up for what was right didn't just protect property. It protected hearts, relationships, and the very meaning of family. With Kojo gone and her father's legacy fully restored, Amma turned her attention to rebuilding what had been broken. The cocoa estate, once a source of tension and fear, became her new mission. She renamed it Owusu Heritage Farms, honoring her father's name and his lifelong dedication to the land. But Amma's vision went beyond simply running a successful business. She wanted the estate to be a place of growth, for the community, for the youth, and for everyone who had been part of her father's story. She hired locals from the village, giving them steady jobs, fair wages, and a sense of pride in the work they did. The sound of laughter and chatter returned to the fields, blending with the rustle of cocoa leaves and the hum of nature. Amma also created scholarships for village children, making sure they could attend school and follow their dreams, just as her father had always hoped someone would. Every cocoa pod harvested, every lesson taught, every child helped was a piece of her father's vision coming alive in a way even he might never have imagined. Amma also reached out to her mother. Efua, who had stood by her through Kojo's deceit, had been living quietly in the city, shaken by the betrayal but still full of love and resilience. Amma invited her to move back to the estate. As her mother settled into the familiar home, Amma took her hand and said softly, "Let's rebuild what love should look like." There was no resentment, no blame, only understanding, connection, and a shared determination to honor the past while creating a better future. Over time, Amma's calm strength and vision transformed the estate into more than a business. It became a legacy of hope and healing. Villagers respected her not just as the rightful owner, but as someone who used her inheritance to uplift others. Friends and neighbors watched in admiration as she balanced profit with purpose, ambition with compassion, and tradition with progress. Standing under the shade of her father's old mango tree, Amma felt the weight of history, the pride of accomplishment, and the warmth of possibility. She realized that true legacy wasn't just about land, money, or titles. It was about impact, care, and the love that survived trials and betrayal. Her father's dream had begun with protection and provision, but Amma had taken it further, turning it into something alive, meaningful, and lasting. Owusu Heritage Farms was more than a business now. It was a symbol that even after betrayal, after hardship, family, community, and love could be rebuilt stronger than ever. And Amma, the young woman who had once felt powerless, was now the heart and guide of that legacy, carrying her father's spirit into a future brighter than she had ever imagined. Months had passed since the court hearing, and life at Owusu Heritage Farms had settled into a rhythm of purpose and peace. Amma had rebuilt the estate, supported the village youth with scholarships, and created a community everyone could be proud of. But one sunny afternoon, at a local fundraiser for small community projects, she spotted a familiar figure in the crowd, Kojo. He looked different now, older, worn, and desperate. His usual arrogance was gone, replaced by the humbling reality of his failure. Amma felt a flicker of emotion, anger, perhaps, but also clarity. She approached him calmly, greeted him politely, and listened as he explained his latest struggle. His small outreach project was failing, and he didn't know how to keep it alive. Amma nodded and, without hesitation, offered to help, but she made her terms clear. "I'll support your project," she said, "but only if everything is transparent. No shortcuts, no deception." Kojo hesitated, unsure how to react, but eventually accepted. Others watched silently, surprised by Amma's generosity. When asked why she was helping him despite everything he had done, Amma smiled softly and said, "Because my father taught me something important. Family isn't just about blood. It's about who honors your name and your trust." Her words hung in the air, a quiet but powerful lesson for everyone listening. Later, Amma walked back to the estate, the sunlight warm on her face. She paused under the old mango tree her father had loved so much, feeling the breeze rustle through the leaves. In that moment, she no longer felt like the orphaned girl who had once fought to protect her inheritance. She was strong, whole, and free. She had reclaimed her family's legacy, redefined what family truly means, and created a life built on trust, love, and integrity. Standing there, she knew her father's vision had not only survived, it had grown, blossomed, and would continue to inspire for generations to come.